Howdy, we are live on a Friday night with yet another brand spanking new episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to talk about. Coming up on the halfway point of the season now, episode 5 of 10 of the final season of Lower Decks. But
Yeesh.
there's a lot packed into this one, so I think we are good to go ahead and get the show started. I see people chatting away in the live audience, so without further ado, I'm Fathery.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Joel.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 307th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 5, Starbase 80, with a question mark and exclamation mark on the end of it. So you gotta say it like an excited question, I guess, like Starbase 80?
I've been practicing it all day trying to figure it.
Yeah.
I don't think
They
I'm
sh-
Starbase 80.
Yeah, they should have called it
Yeah,
like,
that's-
damn, Starbase 80. Like, they should have the damn in there. Maybe, like, someone at marketing was like, yeah, we don't want it to, like, load up on with a curse word on, like episode list menus and
Should
stuff.
have been
But,
parenthesis bleep parenthesis Starbase 80.
Well, that would be funny. That could work.
but yeah, Starbase 80, written by May Darmon, directed by Bob Suarez. We're going to get into unpacking this one in just a moment. Per usual, we do need to do a little bit of quick housekeeping, and first and foremost, give a big thank you and shout out to the wonderful Tex-Trek Patreon supporters who keep our show going. Thank you so very much, Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Quark Spar, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A, Joel Vallis, Ben Ginium, Arthur Lamoureux, our associate producer Chris Garris, Dave Farabee, and our anonymous supporters. We're going to be celebrating with our patrons in about a week on November 23rd. We're having our next monthly Patreon watch party. And this is going to be a big one. We're doing Star Trek First Contact. So that'll be at 3:30 p.m. Central on November 23rd. If you want to watch Star Trek First Contact with us.
It could be like a Thanksgiving show too.
Yeah, for everyone
get
at
together.
home, that means get your salmon, not corn dogs. So
Right, because that's the first Contact Day meal is salmon.
I don't
As
think
we
they
learned
make
from
salmon
Lower
corn dogs
Decks.
would be gross.
Ugh.
I don't think they're solid enough. You'd fall over.
But yeah, anyone in the Tex-Trek Patreon can participate in those watch parties. We do one every month, and it's a great group that shows up. So you can join as little as $2 a month to participate in those. And if you can afford to be more generous, there's some additional perks as well. But looking forward to that and hanging out with the patrons in about a week. And some other news. Unfortunately, it was last week. It was Friday when we were doing our live show. It was just me and Aaron last week, and then as soon as I got done, I saw on my phone the sad news about Tony Todd had passed away. But he
Only
is-
69. Yeah.
yeah, and he was still working a lot. I heard that like there's like stuff that he was in like I guess he's been in some of the Final Destination movies, or maybe all of them. There's like another one that hasn't come out yet that he's in, but he was
He's
like
at
one of
least,
those actors.
Yeah, 1 or 2 movies next year.
He would show up in so much stuff, you know. It's like, damn.
I think he's doing video game voices too, right? Wasn't there something?
Yeah.
Or am I
Yeah, he
imagining
done like
that?
a lot of voice acting.
Well, what a voice. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, he has like
Yeah.
a really distinct voice. Like,
Right.
you know, why wouldn't he? But to the Star Trek fandom, you know, he's best known for not only Kern, but he also played adult Jake in The Visitor, which I think is a guy who's done like so many roles, but I've never seen him in any. And this isn't to like discredit any of his other performances, but I've never seen him in anything that was as great as that brilliant performance he gave in The Visitor. Like I honestly think that's like the best, maybe like the best work he did in his entire career, and like a real prolific career. But he also was a Herodian on Voyager. I think a lot of people forget that. But
Oh, that's cool.
he showed up as a Herodian one time. Because they always cast like tall people for the Herodians, and he's a tall guy. You got to be tall to be Worf's brother. So
I didn't realize he was tall. I don't know why.
Oh, he's like, yeah, very tall. I forget.
I haven't seen him in person. So.
I just read about it recently after he died. He was like very 6'5" or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, that's a sad one to see go because 69. That's pretty young these days. But he left a lot of great work behind. So
It gets younger every year.
But in other news, if you're watching this on Friday night, November 15th, the Creation Star Trek convention in Dallas, part of their Trek tours that they're doing, is going on right now. I'm planning to be there tomorrow. So if you're watching this live on Friday, if you're going to be in Dallas tomorrow, you can see me there at Creation's Trek Tours convention. And not really much else in news. There's been like a little bit of traction on that Star Trek prequel movie that I seem to be keeping track of, but no one else seems particularly interested in it. But I think this is the movie that is the most likely to happen right now. And I was
That's scary.
well, I'm not particularly like I would rather have this than like a fourth.
Oh yeah, but
movie,
this has been coming for like how many years now? So it's like I'll believe it when I'm literally sitting in the seats.
This one they just started talking about a few months ago, and it's already gotten like more traction than in the fourth Kelvin movie. So
I guess in my head I've just clumped anything that was like the next movie in that universe is whatever.
I mean, this episode is about a curse. I mean, that Star Trek 4 is the curse project.
Yeah. The
This
fourth
is
Kelvin
actually
seems to be
moving
the
normally
curse.
forward.
But this is the closest we've gotten before is the Noah Hawley movie, which was going to be a new cast and a new story, and they had a script approved and greenlit to start production, and then right before they started casting, they pulled the plug on that. So we're that close again, but I think the fact that this is going to be a new cast and a different set of people, they're going to be much easy to hire. But yeah, I think it's likely that we get a movie shooting in the next few months, sometime in early 2025, with sites to have it out for the 60th anniversary in 2060, because that is the time when Paramount Pictures seems to, they don't miss many of the anniversaries. They were able to get Beyond out for the 50th. It's kind of sad it took 10 more years, but I think we might have a Star Trek movie in production next year. It looks like it's still possible. So
that's cool. There was also the Otoyo, whatever the 3D people that work with Roddenberry. Mm-hmm. They put out another video of that teaser, sort of
right?
with Spock finding Kirk's comm badge on the planet or whatever, but then they cut to Section 31, or the Daystrom Institute, showing that one thing that we saw where it was like Kirk's body, apparently, the Project Phoenix. So obviously it's not official, but it seemed kind of interesting.
Yeah, that stuff's kind of cool. I'm not sure exactly what they keep teasing as like their something's coming that they're proud of.
Maybe it's something that you can experience in VR or something like that.
Yeah,
that would Kirk body.
Yeah, who knows?
A VR movie. It'll be interesting where you can just wander around the scene as it's playing.
We'll see what happens there with the Roddenberry Foundation stuff and the Roddenberry archives. As for Starbase 80, I'm gonna quickly recap the episode by reading the goofy, non-descriptive synopsis they give us every week, and then kind of expand on that with spoilers, and we can say what we thought about it. But the synopsis this week: Ransom uses too much disinfectant gel, while Mariner gets paranoid about curses. Those are things that do happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the episode shows the Cerritos crippled, unable to use warp after an away mission to a water planet, Piscus 9. So they have to limp on impulse to Starbase 80. And Mariner's not thrilled about that. She said that's where she hit rock bottom when she was assigned there very briefly in Season 3. And upon the station, we see the Cerritos crew transformed into moronic, brain-dead zombies. But it's not because of a curse like Mariner feared. It is because of...
The dead have come back to... Wait, no, not that either.
No, it's
Twitter.
An energy... Well, it is an energy ghost thing. Like a Sub Rosa style. Possessing...
Anaphasic.
It was Matt. It was not Matt because he's the blockhead one. He has the more square head. So they're Matt and Kumalo, right? The name of the beluga whales. So
Yep.
But I guess a good bonking cures that, and everything is right as rain, and the Cerritos can go on to explore and make second contact another day. Joel, you weren't with us last week when we were discussing episode 4. So would you like to give the first opening statement this week and just kind of let us know your broad thoughts and feelings on the episode?
Yeah, I really like this one because we get out of the blue. I think maybe if they kept the original starting dates of previous years, this would have aired at the beginning of October. Does that seem right? Because it's kind of a Halloween episode. You have zombie-like creatures. You have a ghost. You have Starbase.
If it started
really
like in August, you mean?
And then they have chains for no reason hanging down, and so it's all kind of horror movie Halloween-y, and it's a great episode. I really liked it. And then because you get more Starbase 80, which is hard because they talked it up so much, but it really lives up to it. And then they explain it too.
Yeah.
And then we get Acamarians, which out of the blue, Acamarians.
Yeah.
And nobody got phasered by Kirk or by Riker. I mean,
or virused. No virus. So yeah, no, it was a great time, and it's just it's I don't know if it's up to the level of like the Collector Easter eggs, but almost. It's dense. So it's a lot of fun for us talking about Star Trek and who like our pause buttons. Aaron, what do you think?
well, either I'm getting used to that, or like it didn't feel quite as dense as that episode. I don't know.
That one might have been the most, but it's more than
Yeah.
average.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But I guess they're all kind of confined in like, here's an arcade, here's a room, so it was like you didn't have to search for every single scene for it. So that was nice. I really enjoyed it. I definitely got the backdoor pilot vibe off of it, as if it was because they spent a lot of time with the other characters and not as much with the Cerritos. I mean, we see both of them,
B
obviously,
plot
but
is on the station. If it's the captain.
So, and I could totally see that being set up, especially depending on, like whenever this was written, it could have been written before they knew they were going to be canceled and think like, hey, we're doing really well. We're on a 5th season. Maybe we should, postulate or, put out a spinoff or something. But yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. I like like you said, the recontextualization of Starbase 80 from something that shouldn't exist probably in Starfleet to something that's like, oh, okay, makes a little bit more sense. And yeah, it just, the look of it was cool. I liked all the kind of the random technology. As you can see, I'm having problems with my grav plating too.
It's expensive to fix.
Yeah.
If only Mariner would come. But yeah, having a Starbase spinoff seems to be a successful idea in Star Trek. So.
Yeah, and that is a very Lower Decksian idea. If Lower Decks is kind of your goofy TNG show, your spinoff would be like a goofy Deep Space Nine show. It kind of makes sense. There's like some other connections to how DS9 relates to TNG is kind of how like a hypothetical Starbase 80 show I think would relate to Lower Decks. Like, for example, with Deep Space Nine, I think they were so concerned with having it be an alien station because they wanted you to know which Star Trek you were watching. They wanted you to know, like, oh, this isn't the clean-cut Enterprise Starfleet look. This is some weird, ugly Cardassian space station. I think that would be like the same kind of mentality.
Fascist eyesore.
Starbase 80 is like the old 23rd century stuff, but.
Well, and at the end they had their own anaphasic life form that was joining. So there's literally a new character coming on at the same time. So what is it in Matt? Not Matt. Was it
Clem?
Clem, thank you.
Yeah. For me, I didn't like this episode as much as I had hoped that I would. The a lot of the Starbase 80 stuff was just a little too goofy for me. Like the people running around in uniforms that are over 200 years old.
Yeah,
seemed
that was weird.
The like no transporters and no replicators. It's like, well, what if like your crew members needed like medical supplies, like you needed like replicators. Like it seems like kind of deadly to like live on a base with no replicators at that point. And
could it be because of the Akamarians? Maybe that's kind of my head. Like something prevented them from getting those things in.
Yeah, they trying to like just annoy the Akamarians enough so they leave.
But I do really love like a lot of the original series aesthetics, a lot of those like designs, those interiors and stuff. I do kind of like that idea of a base that that is, you know, retro, that has like that old school TOS look to it.
Little handles, run the turbo lifts.
But I don't know. I just didn't. It wasn't as creative as I would have expected from Lower Decks. Like we don't have replicators, so instead we have a guy named Chad who sells hot dogs. I don't know. It just seems like that's not as creative as what the show typically goes for.
Well, they had a lot of food court. It wasn't just Chad.
It's super chunky sauce.
Yeah.
But on rewatch, I do kind of appreciate it more, and it helped like when I saw this on my big TV, and I was able to I don't know, just see all of the design work and all its glory. And there was some funny stuff like bringing back the Akamarians. I thought was a deep cut, and I don't know, I just didn't like the Starbase 80 characters that much. If there is like a plan for like a spin-off with these people, like I would really hope there to be like some other characters that I would care more about. Like the Dr. Horseberry, I guess, is like good for like some, you know, but even that feels like kind of a trite gag of like, oh, isn't it weird that
it was
he's
more
British?
gaggy than,
And I don't know, that just seems like stuff that would have been like on Adult Swim 20 years ago. It's not as creative as I typically find the humor in Lower Decks to be.
There's certainly no Major Kira level person on this base.
No.
But the
even
characters
Knox.
like Rutherford and Tindy and Boimler and Mariner and T'Lyn, who wasn't in this episode. I wish that we had some T'Lyn. But
that's
like,
a crime.
Those people are so much more watchable and interesting than like, I don't know, whatever the deal with Gene Jakubowski is.
I expected that we were going to find out that he's like a clone, or it was like kind of like Mr. Atoz or something like that. That he was everywhere, because he seemed to be everywhere before they got there.
Yeah, he just like was trying to make them do his work, but then like he told them where to find them on the arcade. So I don't know, like why was he surprised when like they find him at the end of the arcade? Like I don't know, just like a lot of that stuff it felt very silly for me, and not in a way that made me laugh, just in a way that kind of made me like roll my eyes a little bit. So but last week I was saying it was my favorite episode of the season. I guess this week it's my least favorite episode of the season. I'm not too worried though, because I know that Lower Decks always saves like really great stuff towards the end of the season, and I'm very excited to see what happens next. But and there was stuff in here that I did really like, so I'm looking forward to getting into
7
that
or 8
as well.
is normally like their crisis point type thing, or the special peanut hamper episode, or, you know, like where they do something different.
Finale.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to see what they do this year. But starting off, we want to get into our episode breakdown. We open with the Lower Deckers returning from an away mission to Piscus 9. We got another aquatic planet. This made me think of like Pacifica they mention in TNG, and Mariner in a good mood because she's a seaweed girly now.
But we didn't get an aqua shuttle, so that's a down.
Missed opportunity. That is a missed opportunity. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen a. All they had to do is just like show the aqua shuttle, just like a quick like 30-second shot of it, just like rising out of the ocean,
just
10,
and
15. Flying back to the Cerritos. Yeah, not even.
Or even
30.
leaving the Cerritos after they drop them off or something. Who knows?
They're just docking in the going into the shuttle bay, and then
because the stuff that they're doing there could have been done in a shuttle bay, because it kind of is a shuttle bay.
But we talked about this.
Did they show the shuttle bay much in the Cerritos? The actual shuttle bay, not this room.
That was like the first thing. It was like the first thing we see when Tindy arrives, and
they don't use it a lot.
That dude is like, move along.
It's got the big Cerritos logo and the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all set if they have the assets. Then
We were
Obviously,
talking about it when we saw the trailer. We saw the wetsuits. We were talking about like they're a cool design. So
yeah,
I'm
they
glad
look
we got
nice.
that.
They're cool.
Even the captain is wearing one on when we cut to the bridge with the red alert. We see her and Ransom.
Yeah.
But
Wet
that's
carpet.
That's when we get the bad news that the navigational computer is down and is electrocuting citation ops. So that's kind of sad to see no one likes to watch like animals being tortured on
No,
TV,
yeah.
but when you see the beluga whales being shocked, it hits different than if it was a humanoid crew member, I think.
Well, luckily the captain just stops it, strands the ship to keep that from happening. So good on Freeman.
Yeah.
I guess
I
this
do
is
love the graphics though.
This is when some of my annoyances with the episode start. Like I guess like the big coincidence of the ship is infected with someone that's going to like turn people dumb. Just by like sheer coincidence, the only starbase close enough for the Cerritos to go to is Starbase 80, the one place
Starbase 80. Oh, sorry.
the one place where Mariner has like the
Damn.
superstition of like, oh yeah, that place like turns you into buffoons. So it's like a really hell of a coincidence. That was like their one destination that is within impulse range.
I don't think she said turn them into stupid. It's just that it was cursed.
But that's
It's the
what she
only
says.
Starbase in the quadrant.
She
Didn't
says
say
that. Yeah, she says if
Oh, okay.
you like the more time you spend there, like you become more of a buffoon or something like that.
Got it,
She uses the word buffoon. Which if you go back to the people we saw in season 3 in the episode Trusted Sources when Mariner got temporarily transferred to Starbase 80, they did seem pretty buffoonish.
They were worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't quite as they were more incompetent than these people were. It felt like.
But the station that we see here, it doesn't really match with what we saw in that episode. Like they're wearing like early TNG jumpsuits and stuff, and like Freeman calls them and like ask for Mariner. Remember, there's like that gag of when they're looking for Mariner through like the Rolodex.
Yeah.
They're chasing Tiberian bats in the background. But I don't know, that station had like, I know it was only like a few seconds, but it had like kind of a different vibe. That felt like it was just kind of like an insignificant way station where I guess Starfleet doesn't send its best and brightest. And
Well, Knox is in charge now. She's made it better.
okay, so is she a recent addition? Because her and Mariner
think
don't
so.
seem to know each other.
Yeah, I
so-
thought
think
about that
she's
too.
New.
Okay,
That's what because Mariner would have reported to her.
so that could explain a lot if she's recently taken over. But when we get to the station, and by the way, what did y'all think of like the design of it? We never got to see it before. We never saw what it looked like.
It looks great. They did a good job
mean,
making it.
Yeah,
dirty.
the whole outside like looking like that is probably not how it would actually happen in space, kind of thing. But yeah, it's cool. It has a bit of the feeling of that prototype drawing of the Starbase from like the 70s before TMP.
Yeah, and
There's a bit of a look at that.
It looks a lot like a Jupiter station in Voyager, or like the how they would show Utopia Planitia with those those round saucers making up the space stations.
Yeah,
and sometimes
I
they
don't know
would
why
be
they were
stacked.
docked and their warp drive was still like on, like the blue glow and everything. It's like, what, are you gonna spin the station around? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I also didn't understand why did I. So if
The nav
station,
processor's out. That happens.
if this. I don't want to be like just like constantly nitpicky talking about this, but I did have like so many questions. Like, okay, if the station doesn't have transporters that crew members can use, it can only use transporters for like cargo. You have to gel up in the gel and go through the decon chamber. Why not just beam over with the Cerritos transporters? Like, why wouldn't that be an option?
Yeah, I don't
It
know.
was, but Ransom made sure not to tell anyone because
And
use the
Ransom,
gel.
Ransom was reluctant to go in the decon chamber. He was like telling Freeman,
All
like,
ruse.
you got to like put on some weird decon gel, but then like when he gets in there, he can't get enough of it. He's obsessed with it. That was funny though. I'm glad that Lower Decks did make fun of the decon chamber. It was it seems like kind of like low hanging fruit. Like it's like one of the most obvious things in Star Trek to make fun of. It's kind of Star Trek at its most.
And they were able to
ridiculous.
do it without time travel, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was great. Boimler asks Mariner to do his back. She's like, no.
Oh, and I like that.
Call her Mare Bear.
He called her
He did
Mare
call her
Bear.
Mare
Yeah.
Bear.
Yeah.
Which
That
is
was
probably
fun.
the reason why she said no more than
Yeah, I
anything.
agree.
No.
Even I went ugh at the same time he said that.
But I've been rewatching Star Trek Enterprise lately, so I've been seeing a lot of decon chamber scenes.
It was UPN. They were trying to get it to be sexy for
Yeah.
the teens.
They wanted it to be the sexiest Star. Hey, if I ask you though, like, what does like the underwear, the undershirts look like in any show? It's gonna in any Star Trek show. It's gonna take you a while to think about it. But if I ask you Enterprise, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, the blue undies from Enterprise. Everyone remembers those because you see them so much. But Cassia Knox meets them right outside of the decon chamber. I guess we get her introduction. She introduces herself as diplomatic liaison. I have a hard time saying that word. Diplomatic liaison. But I guess the episode also suggests that she's in command of the station. We're assuming
Yeah.
she's in command, right?
Maybe everybody does like more than one job. Well, it kind of does seem like Jean was, so maybe.
Or maybe she has to share it with an Acumarian too. She's
We're supposed to, I guess, like her and think that she's like a good station commander and a competent station commander. But I'm like, could you like clean your station? It looks very unsanitary. Like it's hard for me to root for her when it's like your station is literally like falling apart all around you. Like, can't you at least like clean it up a little bit?
In my headcanon, it's like the animation in this, it's like proving a point, but if this was live action, it would be nowhere near this bad. Like it's just sort of the magnification through animation. I always thought about TAS like that too, where it's sort of like, maybe it wasn't quite like this, but the general strokes happened.
Well, our friend Aaron Walke, a writer producer at Star Trek Prodigy, often refers to that kind of stuff as I believe stylistic interpretation of the animation. I think that's the term he uses.
Yeah. I like the
this
little
was
things
live
from the
action,
Enterprise,
yeah.
those reflective, whatever the beams in the hallway.
Yeah, the weird the red hallway beams and the
Yeah.
TOS corridors. Yeah, I like that. And
Vacuum forms things on the wall like TOS.
Yeah.
and I like the colorful piping, like the red and yellow
Yeah.
pipes. I like a bright, colorful Star Trek. So as much as I love Deep Space Nine and I love Star Trek Picard and I don't know, a lot of the darker looking but really and truly Star Trek is at its best when it's a bright, colorful future, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's physically shot darker, it feels like, Deep Space Nine.
But
They
I do.
They had the
Go ahead,
lighting
Joel.
that was like in set lighting, like it was
Right.
lit differently DS9. So
Yeah.
I do kind of feel sorry for Cassia Knox because she thought like, oh, these people are like coming to repair my
Yes.
stuff, and then they're like,
Woo.
oh, we're actually asking you to do work for us, not the other way around. But I don't know. I guess maybe because Starfleet gave away half of the station to the Acumarians accidentally through a diplomatic agreement hiccup. Maybe that's why they're refusing to update it. Like they don't want to upgrade anything until the Acumarians leave. Maybe.
Or
trying to, like,
pitch in
wait them
their
out.
their half or whatever, make sure that they do the same thing. Like you're half responsible for this. Although it's a post, economy
Post scarcity.
Yeah, thank you. So it shouldn't be an issue. It's just more manpower than anything.
But this is where the Cerritos crew splits up with Ransom and Freeman to go find the chief engineer to get the nav computer fixed, and they order Mariner and the lower deckers to help out with station repairs. So let's talk about the A story first with Mariner and crew, and then we can talk about Ransom and Freeman later. But we go to main engineering, which I liked the there's like a fireman's pole to get to the ceiling, which is I guess the floor because the grav plating is inverted. But Doug Drexler wanted a fireman's pole on the NX-01. He thought it would be cool if you're like on the bridge and you get on a fireman's pole and go down and then be in engineering, which they didn't do in the show, but I think that would be
kind of cool.
Yeah, like some starships should have that, I think.
Instead, they had that really slow, weird elevator that went up like one floor in engineering.
Oh yeah.
That always just seemed like okay.
You get like cool dramatic shots of William Shatner going up on that thing, and well, I was thinking of the Wrath of Khan, but I guess they built that for the motion picture, right?
Think so, yeah.
The engineering elevator.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking the Enterprise one because that one seemed to go nowhere.
Oh, it did. Yeah, there is
Yeah.
the NX-01
Yeah,
had
the
that
movie
little
one was
elevator
okay.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
The
yeah.
NX-01 just like went up like
The
8
movie one
feet.
became TNG.
You're right. Yeah, it barely
that
goes
one
anywhere.
was fine. But the NX-01 did not go very far. It didn't seem to just
It's
be
a
equipment.
GNDN elevator. Goes nowhere,
Yeah.
does nothing.
But what none of the Enterprises had in engineering was a corn dog vendor. So Starbase 80 got them beat there.
They do.
I guess it is kind of funny if you say, like, without replicators, we have, like, a more variety of food on the station, but then the only one we see is, like, the really generic Earth food with corn dogs.
There's some on the promenade there, to be fair.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
noticed
we
that
do see some restaurants on the promenade. You're right.
I just noticed that the corn dog has like a face. It's got 2 eyes and a little mouth.
Yes, I wrote that down. I forgot to read that. I really like that logo. Happy corn dog. Eat me. Yep.
I do think they did a good job with, like, the mystery of it being the comm badges infecting, because they show you the clues of that all along, but I didn't piece it together until
The first time I did not. Nope.
Me
But
either.
we see the Sparky comm badge on Rutherford. There's like green sparks coming out of it when he tries to contact Phillips about the grav plating. When he's asking for help repairing that.
And
we
that's the
also-
anaphasic ghost color, the green.
Right,
so it's
right.
like
Yes,
fits.
it's that anaphasic energy. I guess it's starting to take over Rutherford with that moment. But this is also when we learned that Billups only eats hot cereal.
For breakfast, I think. Not all the time.
Oh, okay. Because we've seen him like eating like soup.
Soup. Yeah.
I took it as a breakfast. And
Oh,
Tanner
because it
very-
was breakfast time?
Yeah, it was breakfast time.
Okay.
Let's get a breakfast burrito, not just a burrito. But
Oh,
I took it as they've only ever shown him like eating like out of a bowl. Like he only has like a bowl and
Bowl
liquid in
food.
front of him.
bowl-based existence.
So
Okay, this shot right here with the Boimler in front of the corn dog stand, so you can only see the OR and OG, and he's got his mustache. Makes me think he may have a corn stash. No?
a corn
Okay.
stash.
Yeah.
I got it.
Well, we know that we know that there's also corn can interfere with people's rank and make it
sure
look like
does.
you're a higher rank than you are. So
He looks a little bit like Billups from that distance.
with a
He
stash.
does, yeah.
With this, yeah.
But the first Cerritos crew member we see infected is
Winger
Bingston
Bingston.
Winger
Or Bingston.
Ju-
Yeah.
Bingston, or is it? No, yeah, you're right. Winger Bingston Jr. That's his name.
You froze on my end at least. I didn't hear all of that.
Winger Bingston Jr. Right?
Ah,
Yeah.
Or is it Bingston
so.
Winger? I got him.
one of the two. He runs like improv classes or whatever for the crew.
So many of these. I guess they're not really background characters, but so many of like the Cerritos crew. I want to. I guess there's probably like a list somewhere, but like how many
Winger
named,
Bingston Jr. So yeah,
Winger Bingston Jr.
he's the
Doesn't roll
triple
off your
threat,
tongue
right?
like
I
horseberry. Yeah.
thought I was a triple threat.
But
Yeah, the licking is gross.
yeah,
Yes.
they're all like licking. It's like a sensory thing, right? That's how the anaphasic life form is like reaching out and like I guess scanning
They
its
have hands?
surroundings by licking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's a dirty, dirty station they're looking.
That looks like DS9 kind of, or a shot from that.
Yeah, when we see the station, I guess promenade. They never call it a promenade, but I'm gonna call it a promenade. That's
it
what
looks
it
like the
is.
promenade. Yeah.
I'd never noticed that store in the middle there though.
Yeah, the triple X with the
Yeah.
heart and the lightning bolt through it,
Holy crap!
which is not a hollow suite because they're like we don't have
Right,
Yeah.
there's no
so
holodecks, so
maybe
so
it's just
without
a regular old-fashioned love hotel, I guess.
or just like a porn shop, I guess. If they don't have like their holographic,
Yeah.
If they don't have, if
programming,
you don't have a replicator, I guess you need that. Yeah.
they're having to buy
You can't
media.
Media,
but we
yeah, that's what I meant.
We see some triple X rated store next to a bar and a lot of Acamarans. How do you say it? Acamarans.
Akamarians, I don't know.
But the Akamaran gangs from like the
Probably
TNG
both
episode,
ways.
The Vengeance Factor. But I thought that was an interesting deep cut. Again, you're talking about how like, oh, Deep Space Nine was kind of like we're gonna do a spin-off and just be on Ensign Rose planet with the Bajorans. You know, like the Bajorans were like not like big of a thing in Star Trek before Deep
Bajora
Space
at the
Nine.
time.
Yeah, the Bajora. But
Like, even like if you go back to that picture, there's you can see utensils against the wall in this sort of little pie shop or something. But even the utensils look like they're all beat up. Like
I know,
the
I don't know
spoon
if
is missing a little bit, and that one, the spatula is kind of all bent.
yeah, the station just seems like it's just I don't know. It's grimy. It's gross. It seems
Yeah.
like kind of a dumb thing to exist in the Star Trek universe
Yeah.
with like the Starfleet that we know. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just I have a hard
This-
time swallowing this one.
The Akamarians
This sort of fits
are
with
the
the
local
whole,
health inspectors. So
This goes to me. It feels like the Trouble with Edward. It's like that same. Like this person shouldn't be in Starfleet, and this station shouldn't either.
I know a lot of people who have a hard time with the Trouble with Edward. I actually like. I don't mind that episode that much, but I get it. But like this is the Starbase 80 stuff. It's a lot of the things that I was afraid Lower Decks might turn out to be like really like incompetent Starfleet officers and
100%.
I think it fits
That's a
with the
good call.
Akamarians, though. I just rewatched The Vengeance Factor today. And it makes sense that, let's see, their negotiations go through, they get amnesty and go back to Akamar 3. A bunch of them probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
because they'd be like wanted criminals there, right? Because that was the thing. Like a lot of them who like went off and
Yeah.
became like these raiders, like they were no longer welcome at home.
And yeah. But they'd also been away for 100 years. So.
But no, I love the
live in a
use of them.
starbase more.
I love the use of the Akamarians. I just wish that like the Starfleet personnel on Starbase 80 seemed like well supplied and good at their jobs.
Yeah, it was a little weird when he's like the Gene character's like, I don't know how to do that. Like, oh, you should.
I don't. Was he lying? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe
He
it
didn't
was.
have supplies for sure. But
I'm not sure what was the famous chunky sauce that Rutherford was thinking about purchasing. I guess this
Something
is
that
when he
wasn't
starts to.
refrigerated, apparently.
It's when he starts to get stupid, though. It's when the effects of the anaphasic life form are starting to kick in. That's also when they walk past the store of all the uniforms of the
Yeah.
long dead men, which that was a funny line that made me laugh. But also, is the idea that
Ooh,
like
vintage.
without replicators, because Tindy talks about replicators here, like, oh, where do you get all this stuff without replicators? And the woman at the shop says they're the uniforms of long dead men, but are the clothes that the Starfleet personnel are wearing, is this why Jean and Kazia are wearing like NX era uniforms? Like they're wearing like the uniforms of dead people, because it's like the only way to get clothes on the station without replicators is you have to buy dead people's clothes.
Apparently,
maybe
they went to
can't
Eidos
wash
as
them,
well
so
because
they have to
the
keep just
weird
getting new
Edo.
uniforms.
Yeah, I like the giant pile of red shirts.
OG, red shirts.
I'm glad they didn't do like the gag of like all of the dead people are red shirts. It's like, oh, the gold shirts and the blue shirts also die.
Yeah.
It's not just the red shirts.
Yep.
And actually, I think if you look at it on a percentage-wise basis or whatever, that they don't die as much as like the command.
Yeah, EC Henry did a really great YouTube video on that a long time
Oh,
ago.
cool.
But if people search EC Henry red shirts on YouTube, it'll probably come
I'll
up.
have to check that
Well,
out.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from that channel in a while. I wonder if he's still making content. But a
I
great
think
channel.
he was working on a Star Wars movie at one point, so he might be doing that.
Oh, and like a real movie, like for Disney.
Well, like a fan,
Oh, okay.
like 15 minutes or whatever. It's like, but he got it funded, and it's
Cool.
part of the Star Wars. You're allowed to do it or whatever. So
Well,
also,
good
this
for
is like the third time that we've seen like Khan's necklace. Did somebody just make a bunch of them? It's like,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's supposed to be like a
Torque
weird
sold them
thing
everywhere.
he had left over from his wife, so you'd think it'd be kind of unique. But
yeah,
maybe
it was also
it's
just wasn't it a belt buckle or something that he turned into a necklace or
Yeah.
something like that?
we don't know what it was because we never saw that object in like the original series, so we
Okay.
don't know what its original use
In
would
the
have
movie, it's on their belt buckle uniform, but
been.
Oh,
where Khan got it on TOS,
yeah, that would be weird.
they were just under. Everyone just had a medallion underneath as a necklace underneath their uniform.
I wanted to see TAS uniforms. I thought that would have been the
And a life
pointier
belt.
Delta. Yeah,
Life
I
belt.
think-
a light belt would be cool, but nobody would know what it is.
That'd be easy. Well, you could just throw. I mean, throw it in the background.
I think that they made the TOS deltas kind of large TAS
Yeah.
style though.
Is it to match those shirts they sell on StarTrek.com?
It's like every show's version of the uniforms. It looks like.
Yeah,
There's
I
even
like that.
Dr. Pulaski's long medical scant thingy behind
Oh,
the
yeah.
TMP uniform.
Yeah, I like that idea of the Discovery Connie uniform and the Strange New Worlds uniform and the TAS uniform like all coexisted because that's in my head canon that's how it works.
And together, when you see them in this row hanging on hooks or on hangers, it does not look bad. They don't
Yeah.
seem completely disjointed.
Yeah, they look like they all serve in the same fleet. So
Yeah. More so than the Monster Maroons.
But what do y'all think when we get full on zombie outbreak when they're looking for the grav plating plans and then Rutherford goes full zombie and then a lot of Cerritos crew members crash through the ceiling as zombies.
I was surprised they went full zombie, and I was happy.
And
The
for me,
licking
it's like I've
zombies,
always
that's new. I've
Yeah.
seen like a million zombie movies. Very few are licking zombies.
I was gonna say when it gets to the zombie part of movie, like it's just like it's boring to me. So it's kind of like okay, yeah, and they're gonna eventually escape or not. It's just like can we
But
speed this part
Yeah,
up?
It's fun because
That's
they're
me.
not dangerous, though.
No, that's true.
They're not trying to eat their brains.
They're a danger to themselves.
They're just gonna lick them and be like, "Oh, gross."
but to me like this also felt like a little trite and uninspired. Like we did Cerritos zombies in the very first episode of Lower Decks.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a hazard of space travel.
It happened in Enterprise. Didn't happen in
Yeah.
Voyager, I don't think.
Yeah, we have the zombie Vulcans in Impulse and Enterprise, which that's a pretty good like a scary looking episode of Star Trek. I think the green blood of Vulcans and like giving them like green zombie faces that like really worked. I
Yeah.
thought. I guess I liked that more than the zombie action here, but it forces them to go to the station medical officer, Dr. Horseberry. So this guy kind of cracked me up. I guess it's kind of a gag of like the British doctor. They try to make him like very English when he's like
Yeah.
The pip and everything. Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. There's felt like jokes that would be on like The Simpsons in the '90s, like depiction of a British person.
Well, it also doesn't make sense in this time period.
Yeah.
Who's going to be this?
Well, he's in
I like
denial
the
that he has a
blend of the
problem,
TOS
so.
medical stuff and
Yes.
the I guess that was probably TMP era what he's got on his hand.
And there's some
Or-
of the TNG, like the things that went over your torso. You could see.
yeah.
Yeah, and I like seeing the TOS inspired sick bay and bio beds and like the tech and stuff looked cool, but it also seems kind of like inhumane. And maybe I am just being like too nitpicky, but just like you should really like update your medical facilities. Like your people working on Starbase 80, they need, access to quality healthcare. Like upgrade their stuff. Don't leave them with like century-old equipment. I
Maybe
don't
they
know.
only have like half a dozen people or something, or a dozen people. Or maybe it's a very small number of people on this base.
It's almost
So
like
they
we
don't-
need a spin-off to explain all this.
I'm not saying we have to have a spin-off. It just felt a
No,
little bit backdoor
we do
pilot-y.
now. We do.
But I don't. To me, it would seem like kind of an awkward spin-off because like lower decks.
It
I
would
think
get- Yeah, I would say it would get old pretty quickly.
right, and like lower decks, like it kind of has a point to it. It's like these are like young people at like the beginning of their career, and like the show's kind of always kind of been focused on like that mentality of like, oh yeah, this is people like they're passionate about what they're doing and they're just starting off at the bottom of the totem pole. And
Right.
Oh, but they could have a Game of Thrones style, like, struggle for power on the Akamarian side, though. It could be epic.
But I mean, you could
don't,
do
I
it
don't
like
know what
a
you're.
like a Love Boat kind of thing, where a different
Or it could be
bunch
Love
of
Boat,
people
yeah.
comes through every time. Like, it's like, so, they're just passing through Starbase 80 on their way to some other
As
place.
long as they have those portraits in the beginning, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a hard time imagining like wanting to check in on Dr. Horseberry and Gene Jakubowski like every week.
Yeah.
I'm dying to see what happens next with Tindy or T'Lyn or Mariner, and I don't like none of these characters are particularly compelling to me.
Yeah.
But I
see
assume if
that.
you had it as a spin-off, these would be like the support characters. Maybe Cassia Knox would be a lead, but you would have to, I would think, bring in like some other characters that you'd probably like cast like different voice actors, and it would just be like a bunch of like a whole lot of things that like they didn't bother thinking about for this episode. But
That should be our Patreon like level things. Like we'll basically us composing a pilot for Starbase 80.
There you go. Clem and Friends. Yep.
oh yeah, that could be fun. I don't know. Me as like someone like I really wouldn't want like a Starbase 80 show.
No, I'm
that'd be like
I'm kidding. That was
But
a
I'm saying
joke,
like that would
yeah.
be like an interesting challenge to be like, but if someone was going to do it, like how would they do it right? Like
Right. Okay. Well, I'm game if you want to do it.
we get the comm badge fight when Cassia figures it out, and I did like this. I kind of liked the mystery and the reveal and the payoff of like, oh, it's only the Cerritos crew members, and it's because of the comm badges. So
Yes.
it's
And
kind of
they
like
set that up in the beginning really well because their comm badges were on their table. They'd taken them off to put the wetsuits on.
Yeah, you're right.
So they hadn't used the comm badges later than almost everyone else.
that. I didn't notice that, but that's a great point. Yeah, that's cool. It made me think of Galactica, another Battlestar Galactica
yep.
reference. But how like the Galactica didn't have the computers now. Joel and I were talking about Galactica before the show, so that's why it's fresh on my mind. But in Ron Moore's reimagined Galactica, the Galactica's computer systems weren't networked, and that's why it survived the Cylon
Except for that
attack.
one thing where it was like, what's that? How long has that been there? And then, that was great.
So I guess
Yeah, it's
I
kind
guess
of like
it
what they
pays,
did with Star Wars with droids. Apparently, droids carry information around instead of going through a network or whatever.
I guess it pays to be a late adopter to the new technology sometimes. But this line made me laugh when Cassia Knox talks about being an Elorian, but she's only in her 30s, and Mariner said a young Elorian is just a regular ass person.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's a very lower Dexian idea of like, oh, have like an
my
Elorian
mom's super
character.
old, knows everything.
Well, but if she's just 30 years old and she's had the same
Never
life
met Mark
experiences as a different humanoid, then they might be very similar.
Never been called Madame Knox. So
Madame Knox, what are you talking about?
she's not old enough to have met Mark Twain.
Oh, unlike Guinan.
Yes.
But Elorians, if you did have a show with like an Elorian regular, I don't know if you could get into like some cool stuff talking about how like they're all refugees. Their planet was destroyed by the Borg.
Yeah.
Like we saw like the refugee ship in Star Trek Generations. So maybe her parents were like rescued by Chekhov and Kirk on the Enterprise B. And Scotty.
Inspired her to go into Starfleet.
Yeah. But Boimler and Tindy go zombie, and it's just up to Mariner and the Starbase 80 personnel to fix things. So they have like that kind of heart-to-heart talk, Cassia and Mariner, where she talks about Starbase 80 is a place for second chances, and Mariner says like, "Oh, I kind of dig it then if you put it like that." And I could kind of see that. Oh, Starbase 80, like we take like the Starfleet strays that like no other crew wants them. You know how Geordi wanted to like kick Barclay off the Enterprise, and Picard was like, "No, you can't just have this guy like bounce around from one command to another." But I guess the Starfleet officers that do that, maybe like those types that just get bounced around, they end up deposited on Starbase 80, and there's like a place for them to find a second chance. And so like I could like really accept that, Kasia Nox, if you would just clean your frickin' station. Like, stop having like shit explode in the hallways and water dripping everywhere. And I don't know,
falling into an open trench. Yeah,
it doesn't look like a very positive environment to like start your second chance.
Maybe the first episode starts with them cleaning things up. They get nano cleaners or something that get loose, and like suddenly everything's clean.
They could import prisoners from New Zealand to clean it.
It was funny to me when the self-destruct was toggling on and off from just Billups and the zombies on the bridge. I don't think they were doing it on purpose.
How did the zombies start that, though?
They just licked the wrong buttons, I guess.
That's true. Those, I mean, the numbers are pretty 0, 0. It's always just repeating numbers.
0, 0, 0, destruct. Well, that was only like Kirk's
I will be
command,
right.
But it's still allowed.
But you typically it takes either 2 or 3 people to start the self-destruct. So
Or maybe someone panicked because everyone was turning into a zombie and decided to self-destruct while they still had their faculties.
That would honestly probably be most likely scenario. The more we sit and think about this, the more I guess unlikely it seems that it could have happened. But that didn't bother me though. I thought the toggling the on and off of the self-destruct was just kind of a funny audio gag.
It was funny. And the
But then
faces of just going, yes. And right now, the picture of Chad with 3 corn dogs in each hand looking like Wolverine. Chef's kiss. Oh, it was hilarious.
The corn dog Wolverine claws.
That's right.
But I don't. I thought like Chad, no, and like he's sacrificing himself, but like he's not. He's just gonna like get licked by a mob.
Well, that's kind of gross too, getting licked.
I don't know. Just it was a little silly for me, and again, like it just felt kind of like trite and uninspired. Like I would have preferred something
the corn
more
dog
creative.
vendor silly? No. It's a noble sacrifice of fried foods.
Sorry, real quick. My cat got sick, so I have to go take care of that real quickly. So I will be
Did he
back.
eat too many corn dogs? Oh no.
No, it's new food, so I guess that is similar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chunky sauce.
I'll be right back.
Well, hopefully everything's okay there. The joys of doing things live, but that's okay.
Right. But they do really ape this scene in particular is just like Romero's zombie movie. One of the heroes gets, just completely dogpiled. Except in the zombie movie, they would rip open a midsection and pull out your intestines. But here they just take the corn dog and lick them. I thought it was hilarious.
DT in the live chat says Chad is the real hero of the episode.
Truly.
But I guess there's like some speculation that Guinan could be the mother of Cassia Nox. I see some people talking about like Guinan in the live chat. Chuck suggesting that's a possibility. Jill says Guinan wasn't going to marry again. So
how long after this is what? 12 years?
This
after
is in
TNG?
2382. So this is 3 years after Nemesis,
Okay,
18 years after the beginning of TNG, right?
So Guinan could have had Nox and then like sent her to boarding school or something.
Yeah, Nox would have been like at least 12 years old when TNG began. So
Sent to
could
Swiss
be
boarding
could be
school.
Guinan's kid, I guess. But they track the source of the zombiness to cetacean ops, and when we get here, I really liked the animation. I loved. I determined it was Matt, not Kumalo, because he has the more blocky head. But when we see anaphasic ghost possessed Matt and the animation of how he flops onto the dry land, the dry ground of the ship to get to the computer console, and Mariner being like, yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on with this. Like, this is new. And when Cassie was all like surprised and excited, like, oh my God, you have wells. And Mariner's like, yeah, they do navigation. They throw really cool parties. But then she's like, I don't know what this is. This is new. It's like the mouth is glowing and shooting green lightning out.
No Targaryen parasites. Though.
Yeah, you always got to scan for those, apparently. But I guess here, Mariner sacrifices herself to give the Doctor a chance to see if there's something he can do to stop the infections, and it turns out all it takes is a classic bonking, good old fashioned bonking.
And then when the anaphasic
Bonk,
being
bonk
is
on the head.
thrown up, just like your cat threw up, you just put a bucket over it, and then you're good.
They should have said bonk bonk on the head, Aaron. You're like they. Mariner should have said. Mariner should have said later, like I guess all it needed was a little bonk bonk on the head or something like that. That would have been a fun reference to Miri.
Yep. Or to mission log, either one.
Oh yeah,
Why not?
yeah. They had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought this was like a little like uninspired. Also, like I would hope
A little
for something
easy too.
Yeah. Give me something more creative than this. Like, there's some like really funny, creative people who work on this show. So I would have hoped for like something a little more. But
Maybe
You
even
wanted
using
someone to
Starbase
scream.
80's old technology or something like that.
You wanted someone to scream, "You're not my nana."
it was weird to do the to make it the Sub Rosa thing and to go anaphasic again. But I guess if you are gonna do a Starbase 80 spinoff, or if that was on the table at some point, you know, they are kind of creating this thing Clem to be a recurring character in the in that
Anaphasic
hypothetical
lower decker.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
he's
that's
got
totally what he is.
bosses
Yeah.
that are dicks. Yep.
Yeah. So when everyone goes back to normal and Boimler stops licking the wall, which that's gotta like, of all the places they've visited, the worst place to be licking the walls is Starbase 80, right?
The Cerritos, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
It's clean.
Yeah.
That ship
This is a horrible
sanitary.
thing to say, but it reminds me of the very short treks, like something gross like that. It's like that's the only other time in Star Trek I've been kind of like super grossed out.
Yeah, that's worse, but
Yeah. No, it is worse, but it's that
technically this should
direction.
be worse, but it's still the other ones.
But Clem seems down to hang out on Starbase 80. He was like he's kind of like Captain Archer at Enterprise. They're talking about like all these like Enterprise references, but it was kind of like Captain Archer on Enterprise is like a first contact whore. He is obsessed with making first contact. Like every episode in the first 2 seasons, that's all he's talking about. It's like, I can't wait to make first contact with these people. I got to make first, like he's just obsessed with first contact. And that was what this guy Clem, he wanted to make contact with corporeal beings and prove it was possible to his dick bosses.
That's pretty funny.
And then he just overextended himself, worked himself too hard, and so sad.
Yep.
Did you have any other thoughts on the anaphasic ghost mystery and that stuff?
I don't think so. Looking at my notes. Oh, one thing it did, it's not the anaphasic, but the whole group of people, it did kind of remind me of The Farm when they, in that episode with all the weird misfit people.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it could be, related
They were
to that.
staged similarly.
Yeah, so that was in season 1 and Much Ado About Boimler, right? But like,
Yeah.
I liked the reveal in that so much, where it was like, oh, Starfleet was just going to take all these people to a facility where they would be like
Right.
properly taken care of, and
Well, and that's why it's like it starts out like that and goes the other direction. This feels like it goes too far in that direction
yeah,
of the, but I also like Maintenance Labyrinth. I'm going to use that.
It works.
yeah. That I could see that being like a weird nickname on the station that they just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like program this in as like the official label of this deck
Yeah.
on the ship's computer. Let's talk about the maintenance labyrinth. We have the Freeman Ransom stuff. They're going to look for the chief engineer, and they're told to find him on deck 15, which is the command center of the station, which I liked this interior, this command center interior. It looks like the TOS bridge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even with Gene drooling on the consoles, sleeping with all the alarms going off.
Just like Gene Roddenberry. No.
That is a weird thing. So is Gene Jakubowski supposed to be based on Gene Roddenberry? Like he kind of looks like him, but I don't think he's tall enough.
Yeah, he kind of looks like him.
He
Just
doesn't
like
look
basic-
Like Gene L. Kuhn. No.
Just basic like a pudgy white guy, which
I think if you use the name Gene and then it is like a kind of a basic pudgy white guy, you probably think it related to Star Trek. It would be like, okay, they couldn't have not thought of it at least, even if they weren't meaning to do it. Somebody had to have said something.
But yeah, this guy seems I don't know. He's hard to pin down. Like, is he actually sleeping with all those alarms? Is he just like pretending to sleep and drooling on the station? Is he like some like 4D chess player who has like this like long game of like I'm gonna just do weaponized incompetence and get these people to do all of my work for me? Or is he supposed to be like a goofy goober type guy? Like, I don't know what's going on with him. It was hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, didn't commit to any of them.
So they meet him on deck 15 in the command center. He gives them a map to go to the arcade, but it actually takes them to...
exclamation mark. I didn't see that before.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't go there. It says no.
But they end up on
Sorry.
like a bad turbo lift that only takes them to the maintenance labyrinth.
That sounds like a Siri thing. Like every time you try to use Siri or whatever, it's like, oh, this is what you wanted. No, that's not
maintenance
what I said.
labyrinth.
Yeah.
We get the gag of Ransom asking Freeman, "Oh, did you have the handle things on turbo lifts when you were an ensign?" And she's like, "I'm not that
Oh, that
old."
was great. Yeah. And this part, this I wrote down in my notes. This reminds me of a cross between Hellraiser and Babylon 5. You have all the chains from Hellraiser.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have the fog, and it looks like when they would go to those aliens with different atmospheres in Babylon 5.
Oh yeah. And they had
those
basements, too.
corridors where they had to wear the masks, and it was always there was smoke because it was a different atmosphere, and it was always weird and dark, and there was a lot less bats on Babylon 5 though.
But then in the maintenance labyrinth, we find Gene again with his head stuck in a pipe. Ransom gets him out with some gel, but
He
says he needs
lubes him
help.
up and gets his head out with decon gel.
He says he needs help repairing an oxygen leak, which Freeman is able to repair in like 30 seconds. So this also seems weird to me. Like, she fixed the alarms in like 30 seconds. She fixes the oxygen leak in like 30 seconds. Like, did he really need, like, if he wanted help with station repairs, or these like the repairs he really needed help with,
To be fair, he did mention on the bridge that it was the tricorders. They're really nice tricorders. Them
Oh yeah.
that he didn't have. And that let Freeman do it.
yeah, is
I
that
don't
maybe
know.
that's all you needed? Was just like a more advanced tricorder?
If they had the kind that Tandy and Rutherford had, that wouldn't the stripe. Man.
Yeah, the ones with the purple stripe. Those are the best
Yes,
tricorders.
I know.
But then he tells them to take the stairs up to the arcade. So good for Ransom, he gets a workout. But at the arcade, I like the gang members that are giving them like some free tokens on the house.
We don't usually get Starfleet up here.
But then he's just hanging out in there playing video games, and he's like kind of surprised when they find him, and confesses like, "Oh, I just wanted like help with repairs." But like, why are you surprised? You told them all along to go up, find you in the arcade. So you're in the arcade, and they find you.
Wait, is that his rank? Does he have 4 pips?
No, that's the like the Scotty vest.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's like a pocket.
Tools?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like.
So I was
where
gonna
you,
say, because I never saw his rank before. I just saw that now.
but yeah, I don't think we don't get a rank for him. But I do kind of like the idea of the arcade instead of a holodeck. But I don't know. I think that would like get old if you did like a Starbase 80s show. Like, I don't know how many fun jokes you're gonna get out of like a video game arcade.
At least one air hockey episode.
What was the one that I saw? Cardboard Chaos. I want to know what that is.
I couldn't figure out what. Yeah, it's a fire guy versus a cardboard box.
I liked the game that Gene is playing. It's like a Romulan version of Galaga, where you're
Space Invaders.
It's all, or is it Space Invaders? But it's
Space
very
Invaders.
It's Star Trek Nemesis. It's like that Nemesis style warbird.
Yeah.
I guess it's shooting at like Constitution class Enterprises, but
Like
that's
TOS
okay.
ones, yeah.
But it has like the Star Trek Nemesis Romulan logo, which is
Yeah.
like shown up in universe in Prodigy.
Oh yeah.
Since then, but I don't know. That's the one I would play. That looks like the coolest game in there.
On my end, things were freezing. But did you mention the Moopsie?
No, but I was
okay.
gonna bring that up in the Gornegs.
Okay,
That
got it. Okay.
that you spotted that. But yeah, there is a Moopsie arcade game called Bone Collector that we couldn't get like a good freeze frame on it, but Aaron clocked that.
Yeah, they
near
put
the,
cardboard chaos dead center, but
For me to take screenshots, I have to decelerate my whatever card for Chrome. So either get like really nice crisp picture and not a way to take a screenshot, or a kind of mushy screenshot. I need to figure out how to do something different with that.
you need to just sketch them like those court reporters.
Well, I could have drawn it. I don't think I want to do that though.
But I wasn't expecting Freeman to be so nice to Jean. I thought she'd be kind of mad. Like, really, you made me run up and down all those stairs.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Oh no, I get it. You know, the California class ships get treated with a lot of like disrespect. So I know what it's like if Starfleet doesn't send you the most support."
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all the lower deck ship, lower deck station. Yeah. It all connects.
I don't know. I just have a hard time like picturing this dude as like a real person or as like a real person in Starfleet.
But he's got a great throwing arm.
He does have a great throwing arm, or so he claims. Like he's the one who said that. So
It's true, he did. I don't know what he throws. Not much room for football. It's not a cargo ship. Enterprise did have people playing football on cargo ships, but
Enterprise
Didn't show
also had the crew like playing basketball though. So they started in season 4.
Yeah.
They're playing basketball together. Like I always thought like, oh, that could have been Enterprise's thing had the show keep going. Like TNG had poker, TOS had chess, Enterprise would have basketball. And the Starbase 80 show would have Space Invaders and other arcade games.
that's right. You put your token up to be next, and then
It's just this is retro. Like I can't imagine like in their universe, like what world in world why they would look like this old. Like you know what I mean? It's just like even now, if you showed this showed up at a place, be like, oh, that's a retro '80s arcade game. Like no one's gonna know what it even is.
Yeah, and
in
like
2278 there was a
Yeah.
a big thing. You made retro 80s games.
I guess retro gaming stays so popular for like in Earth culture that even in the 24th century of like Ferengi and Romulans building arcade games based on like
okay.
Earth 1980s and 1970s
Yes.
technology.
That'd be hilarious too if Cardboard Chaos was just a Ferengi knockoff of like Mortal Kombat.
There was a
Because they don't know what
Ferengi
it's supposed to
arcade
be, so
game.
they're just like, I don't know, fire versus a box. It's flat.
There was a
I mean, if they
Ferengi
have-
game in there too.
I did see
I mean, if card games continue, why not? Yeah, I mean,
the classics.
yeah, there was a Ferengi game in there, wasn't it? It was like something Fortune or Ferengi Fortune.
Yeah, you couldn't see the whole title. I don't think.
And also the captain's chair, which was one of those games with like a big like simulator chair, which they've made a few Star Trek games like that. There's like that big Voyager one.
I've seen pictures of those, but I've never got to sit in one.
They should have called it the center seat.
I knew someone who was like giving one away,
Oh, wow.
and you just had to go pick it up from them. And I did not go get it because I didn't have anywhere to store it, and I don't
Yeah,
have
they're
room for it
huge.
where I live.
Yeah,
But maybe one day I'll acquire one
it's
of
like
those.
the
That'd
size
be
of a
kinda
small
cool.
car.
Yeah. But, did y'all have any other thoughts on Freeman and Chief Engineer Gene Jacobowski?
I don't think
No.
so. Tap that well.
With that out of the way, then we can move on to the Gornegg section of the show, where we like to talk about the Easter eggs.
I
and
thought you were going to
jokes
mention it because I would have said something, but you skipped them facing off with the final boss bat
Oh yeah, they
because they get
The
all these little
episode-
bats, for sure.
the episode ends with I guess it was like the big mother Pyrinthian bat.
Well, it's like the video games. It's like the final boss bat. They got all the little ones, and now you see the eyes and mouth. They're huge. Ransom has a broom. Freeman has a dustpan and a little brush. And she charges in there like,
Isn't that what they had
Leroy
on the first time
Jenkins?
we saw Starbase 80? Wasn't somebody had a broom or something? I thought.
yeah,
Or am
I
I
think
mad?
Yeah,
so.
there's
Well, they need
someone-
a lot of cleaning.
There's someone chasing it with a broom, I believe, in the
Okay.
background. They kind of have like, I don't know, they have like weird like New Jersey accents, like when they're like yelling at each other about like chasing the bat. So I was kind of wondering if those people would show up in this episode, but they didn't. None of the Starbase 80 people we saw in season 3
Yeah.
will appear
The
here.
final boss
but
bat ate them.
Perhaps that is what happened.
It's
So-
huge.
And ate whoever the old station commander was, and that's why Cassia Knox
Yes.
has come over. And maybe she just needs like some time, and she'll eventually like, get this place cleaned up and not have like equipment exploding in the hallways like we
She's
saw
a diplomat
here,
because
so.
she opened negotiations with the bats. They'll form an alliance against the Acumarians. And
But I kind of like the Akamarians. I wouldn't want them to go. I kind of like them on the
Yeah.
station. I think that's interesting.
the
I
bat
just wish
hates
like
them, though.
I feel like Chad, the corn dog man, like he's supposed to be like Quark. He's supposed to be like, oh, like our like weird civilian character who's also on the station because like we need our characters need someplace like go have lunch. But I kind of wish he'd just been like more interesting. But I don't know, maybe. But I am kind of like looking at this, like Aaron was saying, like as like what if this was a backdoor pilot. And what would be the if they were going to do like a Starbase 80 spinoff, what would it be like? And I'm hoping that there would just be like some more compelling characters to be the mains, and these would just be like the support people.
And it could be very similar to like what they did with Deep Space Nine, where it's like it's Bajorans and stuff, but not exactly how they kind of portrayed them in Next Generation. Everything kind of felt a little tweaked, a little changed. The Cardassians were, so maybe this would be just a little different. Not quite as run down, and
Yeah, no doubt. But with all that out of the way, we can go into the Gornegg section of the show, where we like to talk about the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections. Starting off with Casperia Prime. Captain Freeman was really mad not to get to go to the captain's conference there, but Casperia Prime is supposed to be like a good vacation planet. It was like it rivaled Ryza. They talked about honeymooning there in Deep Space Nine. That was something that Jadzia and Worf talked about. He wanted to go to the Vulcan Forge because Worf is a fan of the animated series, apparently. Or the Deep Space Nine writers are. But yeah, Casperia Prime mentioned there. Also, Dr. Bashir was supposed to go to a medical conference there.
Not a scatting competition. That's right.
Well, we don't know what the Starfleet doctors were gonna do like after hours. Who knows?
I do love Freeman's commitment to scatting. It's
I'll
it's been
say-
mentioned more than once.
Yep.
I'll say this about Freeman though: in the second episode, she was having a hard time getting into the big command party and an embarrassment of Dupplers. But here, she's obviously done a little bit better for herself and is getting the invites to the cool.
I think she
conferences.
started the scatting competition just so she'd have to go.
Also, the piece of equipment that Cassia Knox was waiting for was a flux spectrometer. I had to look that one up, but that was only mentioned in the TNG episode Disaster.
Which rhymes almost with flux capacitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I almost thought it was
sure
like an
that's not,
invention of Lower Decks, but that's fun. Flux spectrometer. I want to say that more often.
Like, imagine having to say that like during a scene or something, or just trying to keep like, okay, what's my motivation? I was like, now this word.
There were Akamarian food vendors. We had a Parthas restaurant. That was the food that the girl in the Vengeance Factor prepared. It was described as a green veggie with fleshy roots that makes a spiced dish.
Which
And
Riker liked a lot.
the uniforms in the store, the dead people uniform store. There is like not only do we have like the NX class uniforms that Jean and Cassia are wearing, but we have Monster Maroons from the Wrath of Khan era. We have motion picture uniforms, the Edo clothes from Justice, original series Klingons, a lot of props. You have like the first contact phaser rifle and a lot of like various tricorders and phasers, communicators. This was a good one. Ruck, the android from What Are Little Girls Made Of? His shirt is there, so that was a good deep cut.
That's for the big and tall customers.
We were talking about Aaron was talking about before the show the cap, the kind of military cap that was a pretty common thing in the Kelvin universe, but we also saw this way back in the Cage. Jeffrey Hunter Pike had one of these caps in his quarters, so it's cool to see that there. Freeman has one in her ready room sometimes.
This is not an Easter egg, but on the right-hand side, there's like a popcorn bucket and some cans and stuff left out. It's like, that's not even cleaned up.
That's gross. The station is gross. It's not a very positive place for second chances, in my opinion. Oh, this is a funny one. The wheelchair, the Admiral Jameson chair from Too Short a Season.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's behind the clerk in the corner.
And behind that is Dr. Pulaski's, or at least a version of that, like the long coat that she had from season
uniform.
2.
Yeah.
I
was a fan of that. That looked good.
Yeah.
And,
are
but
the
again,
things at the bottom left next to the communicators, are those the binoculars that they used in Star Trek V? I think it was. Further, that corner right there. We're zooming in for all people on the
enhance.
It kind of looks like it could be. I don't know.
These are the rocket boots,
or it could be the ones from TAS. Very similar.
The big thing for me was just having the various 23rd century uniforms all hanging up together, just being like, yes, all of these count, yes, all of these can coexist in the same timeline. You can have the original series and Discovery and Strange New Worlds. It can all fit together. I don't know why the styles change so drastically from the 2250s or the 2260s, but according to Lower Decks, it all happened, so according to Lower Decks, you have like the Strange New Worlds Enterprise, but also like the TOS Enterprise. Both of those looks happened in this timeline. I like it.
Is that box in the center, like from Kirk's quarters? That wooden box that's above. Yeah, that.
It looks familiar.
It feels familiar. Yeah, that's why I was wondering. Like, anybody in the audience knows that?
I'm not sure what that one was. Yeah, if someone wants to let us know.
But I don't know.
Yeah. It would be weird to have all of these things mean something and then just one random box that doesn't.
Mike would do that.
Well, he probably would. You're right.
Just so we can say, oh, there's one thing you guys didn't figure out, like in the collector episode.
Or a lot of times the titmouse people just like add stuff that
that's true.
Like they come up with additional stuff that the scripts
maybe we
don't
get
call
Mike
for.
to actually tell us now that the show is almost over what that thing was. The orange.
I don't know if he knows. I wonder if he doesn't know. Like, I wonder if he doesn't remember, or
he remembers.
I mean, maybe he does, but in Akamar 3, I mentioned that was the planet from the Vengeance Factor, where we have the gangs that are negotiating in that episode. Marina Sirtis's late husband, he passed away a few years ago, but he played one of those dudes.
Oh.
I think he's this David Bowie looking guy, for people who can see this. I think this was Marina's husband, was this dude. But yeah, sadly passed away a few years ago. but he had that like rock star look that they wanted for these gang members. The long hair,
Yep,
leather
that's him.
jacket, bad boys. So cool. And the Tarkanian parasite, that was the thing that transformed Geordi into a blue glowy lizard man in TNG.
I thought that was a really cool look. I know some
I
people are
always
like, oh, it's
loved
just
that.
black light, but I thought it was neat.
No,
It's just black
I
light,
agree.
but what they did with it,
It's bioorganic
Yeah.
Tron.
But that's cool. Bioorganic Tron sounds cool
Yeah.
as hell. Like, of course, that should be a Star Trek alien. Ever since I was a little kid, I thought that was such a cool look when I first saw this.
And I just
So-
love the whole like how they recreated and like we're using the technology to figure out what was there and by what wasn't there, and you know the shadows and stuff.
Yeah.
And like
It's a fun
that would be
episode.
something I would do. That would be fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of. I really like that one. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
We should do that as a Patreon watch party episode sometime.
Yeah.
There you
It'd
go.
be a good one to toss on. And in the arcade, we were talking about there being the Romulan game, the Ferengi game. Aaron spotted the
Great koala game right there.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron spotted the Moopsie game, Bone Collector, but the one that I saw a lot of people talking about is the Great Koala arcade game. So someone saw that thing and then made a arcade game based on it. So
You have to stay off the Black Mountain.
I guess if you have like devils and angels and stuff in entertainment, then you could probably have koalas then.
yeah, why not? The koala deity. But that's all I got. I don't know if there's anything else that y'all thought we should mention that we didn't cover as far as Gornegg stuff goes. But otherwise, y'all heard us talk about this episode for over an hour, so I would love to get other people's thoughts on it. Please feel free to comment on YouTube or reply to my posts on social media or let us know in the Tex-Trek Discord. Should be a link wherever you're watching or listening to this to join the Discord server. And let us know your thoughts on the episode. We might share your responses next week. Last week we talked about the episode A Farewell to Farms, and user Sure, I guess, on Blue Sky said about A Farewell to Farms. I liked the way Maglimo's story was just a silly version of Ma'a's story because it shows this concept of fighting against the identities expected of us and imposed on us by the people around us is a universal one. And I think that is going to be the common theme of season 5. You know, even though we didn't get into like the quantum fissures and like the alternate universe stuff in this episode, they've been, you know, bringing that up pretty consistently, but I do think that, you know, what Cassia talks about, like, oh, I like it here, I volunteered to be here, I like being on the goofy eccentric station where people come to get a second chance. It is more of that theme of like finding that place where you belong.
Yeah.
So, and she is, and we see Mariner kind of thriving as a big Starfleet nerd in the opening of the episode. We see her, you know, having fun with. Speaking of bioluminescence, Aaron, she's Mariner is a fan also of that stuff. So that's cool to see.
We know it would be great to have more Lower Decks at some point, but it does feel like her arc is starting to at least really wrap up really well. Like into
does.
Like okay, she's now the person she's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say goodbye to these characters forever, and I don't think that we are. I think that we'll see them again at some point down the. I don't know if it'll be in 2 years or
in the
2
Starbase
decades,
80
but-
spinoff.
Yeah, who the hell knows? But
Lower
it is
Decks.
like at a good point to end like this chapter, to do like the end of the show as it is. It is like at a good stopping point.
Lower Decks will turn away from the Black Mountain.
Is that what's gonna happen?
Yep.
But yeah, there's still 5 weeks left, 5 episodes left. So, and like I keep saying, Lower Decks always saves big stuff for the back half of the season. I feel like I say that like every year, and they always do it. So watch this be like
Yeah,
the 1 year
it's
where
worked.
they don't. No, I have a lot of trust in the show. Even though like this episode, I was mixed on. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but like I still have a lot of faith. I'm gonna have a great time in these remaining 5 episodes.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be great, the rest. Too short, only 5, but
Yeah. It is weird to
it
think
is-
that we're halfway through.
And then it's going to be a big, it's going to be kind of a big dry spell soon because we're not getting a ton of Trek next year. We're getting Section 31
In January.
and 10 episodes of Strange New Worlds, and that's probably it for 2025. So,
That gives us time to go back and like, just reevaluate like maybe Prodigy and like watch that again or talk about the animated series.
and we had
Look at my
so
show.
so much Star Trek this year, but a lot of it was like the final. Is like we got the final season of Discovery, and we got what is possibly the final season of Prodigy, and now we're getting like the final season of Lower Decks. So
Discovery seems like it ended like 9 years ago at this point. It feels
no,
how
that
long
was just
ago.
a few months ago.
Yeah.
That was this year. It does seem like forever ago, though. I get what you're saying, but
It was technically on longer than TNG, but
I
Oh,
can't
wow.
like this year does seem like so much has happened. Like I was thinking like, oh yeah, like when did Dave and I talk to Doug Drexler on the show? That was like 2 years ago. Wait, I was like, no, that was earlier this year. That was like back in like February, I think. So
Today I joked, it's like,
Pirate.
it's been a month and a half since last week. So it's like,
yeah, well, it does feel like
what's
that
happening.
at times. It isn't just the fictional characters of Star Trek that deal with like temporal anomalies. It seems to be something like we experience in real life. It's giving me a headache like it does Janeway. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about next week's episode of Lower Decks. So please come back for that, and you can check out the live first reaction streams that Rachel does on Thursday nights, and come back Friday nights for the deep dive discussion, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.